Imagine disappearing for 24 years while living just a few feet away from your own family. The police searched for you. Your neighbors never suspected a thing. Everyone believed you just run away. But the horrifying truth, it was far worse. She wasn't kidnapped by a stranger, and she wasn't trapped in another country. She was locked inside a secret basement right beneath her own home. And the person who imprisoned her was someone she should have been able to trust the most. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the terrifying true story of Elisabeth Fritzl, a case so absolutely disturbing that it shocked the entire world.
24 years. Just take a second to really let the sheer impossibility of that timeline sink in. I mean, for over 2 decades, literally everyone believed this young woman had simply run away. Local police searched, leads totally went cold, and days just turned into years. To the outside world, she was just another missing person who vanished without a trace. You know, a cold case gathering dust on a shelf. But the reality of where she actually was during those 24 years, it's almost too terrible to even comprehend.
Because the truth is, like we said, she wasn't kidnapped by some random stranger off the street. She wasn't trafficked or trapped somewhere far away. She was living literally just a few feet away from her own family. Today we're going to break down exactly how this happened, how this massive deception was maintained for so long, and how this absolute nightmare finally came to an end.
Part 1. The Vanishing of Elisabeth.
So, to really understand this crime, we have to understand the environment she was so desperately trying to escape in the first place. Born in Austria back in 1966, Elisabeth grew up in a house with 6 siblings. But life at home, it was anything but normal. Her father, Elisabeth Fritzl, was well known for his violent temper and this incredibly controlling behavior. Elisabeth spent a huge chunk of her childhood living in absolute fear.
As she got older, she really dreamed of only one thing: escaping. At 18, she finally found a job at a local restaurant and was so hopeful about starting a better life. But sadly, that dream was never going to come true. Because on August 29, 1984, Elisabeth suddenly disappeared without a trace. Her family searched desperately. Days turned into weeks with absolutely zero clues.
Her mother, who was obviously completely fraught with worry, officially reported her missing to the police. But then something totally unexpected happened. A letter arrived in the mail. It claimed to be from Elisabeth, and it said she was living happily with a friend and didn't want anyone looking for her. The handwriting? It looked completely genuine. So Joseph handed the letter directly to the police, and believing she had just left voluntarily, investigators made a terrible, terrible mistake. They closed the case.
Part 2. The Secret Underground Prison.
Now, the crucial point investigators completely missed was that Elisabeth had never actually left home at all. She was hidden directly beneath their feet. Joseph had constructed a completely secret soundproof basement behind 8 heavily locked doors. 8 doors. And absolutely no one in the family or the neighborhood had any idea this place even existed. For 24 agonizing years, this tiny, hidden underground prison was Elisabeth's entire world. Think about that for a second. For over 2 decades, she would never see sunlight, she would never walk outside, she would never experience an ounce of freedom.
And the horrific duality of this story is it's deeply unsettling. Upstairs, Joseph is living this seemingly normal family life, his lives going completely unquestioned by his wife and his community. But downstairs, it was a world of pure darkness. Every few days, he'd bring down food and water, all while subjecting Elisabeth to years of brutal physical and sexual abuse.
During her unimaginable captivity, Elisabeth actually became pregnant 7 times by her father. All of her children were born right there inside that hidden basement. They grew up without fresh air, without schools, without friends. I mean, some of them had literally never even seen the sky. And tragically, one of the babies died shortly after birth just due to a complete lack of basic medical care.
Now, what happened to the surviving 6 children is a totally twisted display of Yosef's control. 3 of the kids remained trapped underground in the dark with Elisabeth. But the other 3, Yosef actually took them upstairs to live in the main house. So how on earth did he explain suddenly having toddlers in his home? Well, he boldly convinced everyone that Elisabeth had joined a religious cult and was just randomly abandoning her children on his doorstep. And shockingly, his family bought it. For years, no one even questioned this elaborate story.
So it really makes you wonder, right? How do you hide a secret like this for 24 years? How does a man maintain a completely separate, horrific reality right beneath his family's feet without ever slipping up? Well, the truth is, every secret, no matter how deeply buried it is, eventually begins to fall apart.
Part 3. A desperate medical emergency.
Because the crack in Yosef's armor wasn't a sharp police investigation or even a suspicious neighbor. It was a medical crisis. Down in the basement, Elisabeth's oldest daughter, Kirsten, became dangerously ill with severe kidney failure. Completely desperate to save her daughter's life, Elisabeth begged and pleaded with Yosef to take Kirsten to a real hospital. Realizing how bad it was, he finally agreed.
But once they got to the hospital, doctors immediately noticed something just wasn't right. When they asked Joseph who this child was, his answers simply did not make sense. He tried to claim he had just found this severely ill teenager completely abandoned on his property. Well, the medical professionals weren't convinced for a second. They trusted their gut and contacted the police. And that single phone call, it changed everything.
Part 4. The shocking truth revealed.
Working off the hospital's tip, police launched a full-scale investigation. Realizing his carefully constructed world of lies was rapidly collapsing around him, Yosef finally yielded. He brought Elisabeth and the remaining children out of the basement. And for the very first time in 24 years, Elisabeth stepped out into the outside world. On April 26, 2008, police arrested 73-year-old Elisabeth Fritzl, and the entire world watched the horrifying details unfold in absolute disbelief.
Part 5. Justice and Rebuilding Lives.
The revelation of this crime was incredibly swift, and thankfully, so was the path to justice. Less than a year later, on March 19, 2009, Elisabeth Fritzl finally faced the consequences of his unimaginable cruelty. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. Today, he remains behind bars in a secure prison unit, permanently removed from society, exactly where he belongs.
But honestly, the most important part of this conclusion is what happened to Elisabeth and her children. Their entire focus immediately shifted to rebuilding. They received extensive medical and psychological care to help process this massive trauma. And to protect their privacy from the insane global media attention, they were given totally new identities and relocated to a safe, quiet community in northern Austria, far, far away from the nightmare they had somehow survived.
The Elisabeth Fritzl case remains one of the most shocking true crime stories in modern history. It serves as this profound, deeply unsettling reminder that sometimes the darkest, most terrifying secrets are hidden in the places we least expect. They aren't always in dark alleys. Sometimes they are quite literally right beneath our feet, orchestrated by the people closest to us.
It really forces us to look at the world a little differently, doesn't it? To ask ourselves, what other unbelievable true crime stories are just hiding in plain sight, waiting for one tiny slip-up to be exposed? If you appreciate clear breakdowns of real events, be sure to join us for the next explainer, because the next story we uncover might be even more unbelievable. Thanks so much for learning with me today.